If you're a contractor who wants to take a vacation, but you just don't know how to leave your business for even just a couple of days because you're constantly firefighting, answering text messages, and making your business run, then watch this video, because inside this video, I walk you through exactly how to implement my Vacation SOP inside your business so that you can take a vacation. In fact, this video is actually how I walked all of my private clients through this Vacation SOP to set them up to be able to leave their business for a couple of days, turn their phone off, and work on their business at my in-person retreat. So if you want to take a couple of day vacation and not answer your phone, then watch this video.
Let me share my screen. So it should look like something like this. So a lot of times when you go on vacation, there's all these little tiny details that get missed and not delegated. And that's what ends up having you on your phone dealing with issues while you are away, and you end up not actually having a vacation. Now, I know this is more of a retreat. You are learning, you are going to be working on your business, but I'd rather you work on your business during the next couple of days next week versus working in your business while you're trying to work on your business. So obviously this is more of a vacation SOP for checking out, but the same thing is going to apply. But basically there's a checklist here of things that you have to do. So you need to appoint a person who's going to be the contact person before they contact you. Now, it's not to say that people aren't going to contact you, but who is that person that they're going to call first before calling you? It could be somebody who's really not in an ownership position. It could be somebody who's not really in an authority per se, like a project manager, because like I know Daniel is going to be at the retreat and he's the project manager, but you still want to have somebody who can be a buffer and a filter, because a lot of times it's just a, hey, should I do this or this? And talking it through with another employee is probably good enough until it escalates from there. If there are specific things that you do on a regular basis that need to be done, so if there's certain things that have to be filed, certain permits that you normally do, and let's say you normally file something every Thursday, well, you're going to be gone on a Thursday, so you want to make sure that you have an SOP for that, and you have delegated that, or you've done it early. You need to inform clients of your vacation. So if you are the front face of your business and all clients come to you, you need to inform them, hey, I'm taking 2 days to level up my business, and I will try very hard to not answer my phone. So if you have any questions, please go to the person you appointed. Call this person. A lot of times they just want to know what's going on, or they just want to, it's actually better that they know what you're up to versus you just being gone and it takes you 5 hours to call them back and they expected a phone call in 10 minutes. Then you've got an angry client on your hand, and you could have just, hey, I'm going to be out of town. This is what's going on. In fact, a lot of clients really do like the fact that you want to improve your business and you are doing something in that nature. And so therefore they're going to support you, or they'll just wait. My husband's had to get really good at this with being in real estate, but also having a family, that he won't answer the phone in the afternoon, the evenings, and dinner time. And so, people call and they'll leave a message. And he's like, oh, sorry, I was with my family. I try not to answer the phone in the evenings because that's when I hang out with my family. And they're like, oh, okay, cool, no problem. And then they'll never call him in the evenings, unless, of course, he's got like a deal he's working on and they're going back and forth a ton and it eases into the evening. But most of the time, he's got that hard boundary. So I don't usually tell them that I'm like actually on vacation. I just tell them that I'm going to, or sorry, not where I'm going on vacation, but I'll just like, hey, I'll be out of town, make it a little bit more vague. They don't need to know your plans. Inform your employees, your VAs, even your independent contractors, your bookkeeper, people like that, just so, again, they're not going to go pile on a bunch of stuff. Doing this about a week before you go on vacation is good, because if it's like, oh, I actually wanted you to review these financial things next week, and I was planning on sending them to you on Wednesday. Well, you're flying on Wednesday. So that way they can plan ahead of time. And that way you're not then trying to catch up on all this work while you're trying to fly and pay attention and stuff. Move Zoom out of my way. Set away messages on your emails. I know a lot of people do these super lengthy emails and all this stuff, and it's just like, hey, I'm out of the office. This is when I'll be back. If you have any questions, this is who to contact. So include in your email those who can be contacted if they can't wait till you're back. Again, you want that buffer person. They may or may not actually buffer anything, but it just lets people know that there is somebody to go to and they don't feel like they're hanging. If there is documents or passwords or codes or account numbers or contact information for vendors or suppliers or clients. Like if there's contact stuff in your phone and somebody who's in charge needs to get a hold of that person, then make sure they have all of that. If you're the only person that has all the subs numbers in your phone because you're always around, well, then that's a problem. You should document that. In fact, if you are the keeper of all of the knowledge in your business, this is why I say, even if you're not going on vacation, this is a great opportunity for you to create an SOP for putting all of this in a place where people can actually access it. So create the one way you can be contacted in case of an emergency. So first of all, you need to define what an emergency is. Most people think when they have a question, it is an emergency. Most things are not an emergency. So I'm going to deep dive into this one a little bit more, but you need to define what an emergency is. Like when is it okay for your team to contact you? And when is it not okay? And they should just wait until you can get back to them. I know when I left a lot for the brewery is I would have them log every single day an email to me. So if I did happen to be able to check my email, which I wasn't able to when I was in China, I would see exactly what happened and I knew exactly what was going on. And that way I didn't really have to contact them at all because it was all fine. So it was like, hey, this is what happened. This is how we solved it. This is what went on and everything like that. And so I could keep up to date on things without having a phone call. And then practice leaving before you actually leave. Obviously, it's a week away, so you're not going to have a whole lot of time, but I would do whole days where I would not turn on my phone and not come to the brewery. And I would just be like, I'm pretending to be gone. So follow this SOP. And when I see you tomorrow, we're going to talk about what broke and what happened and what needs to be fixed and what didn't work out the way we thought it was going to work out. And then here are the questions. You know me and questions. So what are the most important tasks to be done while away? So if you've got jobs going on and there's some critical deadlines, those all need to be documented, not a throw up speech on someone on Tuesday afternoon as you're running out the door. This needs to be thought through and thought, okay, what jobs do I have finishing? What jobs do I have hitting milestones? What is that schedule like? What is going on and what needs to actually happen while I am away? And then who will be doing these? I remember years ago when I was taking a CPR class for the first time, and I was probably like 10 or 12. And I remember, being in the hot seat and, doing CPR and these little dummies. And one of the ways that they had trained us was to have somebody call 911. So I turn over to my friends, we're acting the scene out, and I turn over to a whole bunch of my friends and I'm like, hey, someone call 911. And then I keep doing CPR. And so the instructor stopped me and he goes, if you say someone call 911, everyone will assume that everyone else is going to go call 911 and no one will go call 911. And he said, if you do that, you're not actually doing it right. The way you have to do it is, even if it's like, hey, you in the blue shirt, go call 911. Even if you don't know them, they're a passerby, they will go, oh, I'm in the blue shirt, and they will go call 911. So the same thing needs to happen in your business. If you just say, hey, look at team meeting, like, here's all the things that we've got going on. Here's what's happening. Here's the jobs that we've got finishing up. Okay, are you all good? And everyone's going to blindly shake their head yes. And no one is going to take full responsibility for the specific tasks that need to actually happen in your business. And so you have to be very specific. You have to say, okay, this one job in this one spot with this one phase, or these subcontractors or whatever it is your responsibility. When I come back, I want this to have happened. So you want to be very, very clear. This is going to be a very good skill across the board for any SOP you're making, but you have to be very specific. If you just throw up a bunch of tasks onto a piece of paper or have a conversation with somebody, I can guarantee you that they will only remember about 5%, maybe 10% of what you said. And then you'll come back frustrated and say, well, I see, that's why I can't go away. My business falls apart without me. And that's not the point. Then how will you do these tasks? Write out the instructions, screen record, use Loom, use Wave AI, use video, whatever you need to make sure that they specifically understand the things that they need to be doing. How will this person know that they did it right? hey, when I get back, we should be in the tiling phase of this bathroom and we should have passed all permits. So what needs to happen in order to have that happen, or whatever the case is? But you have to be very specific on what you do and how you do it. Again, what results will they get if they did do this task right? And then how do you want, or when do you want them to contact you if something doesn't go right? So I always had a margin of error. If here's the target, this is what I want. If we're within this margin of error, I'm okay with it. If we're outside of that, you better call me. Actually, I had another layer. I said, well, if it's outside of this particular margin, then this is how you're going to fix it. And then if you can't fix it that way, then you're going to call me. Rarely did they need to call me because I had the if this, then that scenarios for all of the beer. And when I'm talking beer, if I made our favorite IPA was a Bully Pulpit IPA, it was Mosaic and Simcoe hops. And that beer needed to be mashed at 147.5. If it was 148.2, the beer tasted too malty. If it was 147.2, it tasted too sweet. That is how specific my beer had to be in order for it to taste good. That's also why I won awards. So if it was 147.5, I was good. If it was 147.8 or 147.4 or 3, I had specific ways on how to move that temperature the way we wanted it to go and how much to change it, you know? And then if it was beyond that, then that's when they called me. But because they knew exactly what was required of them, they hardly ever had to call me when I was out because they knew what the standard was. And then, of course, goes without saying, give all the SOPs to the appropriate people. I'm going to have you guys go through this a little bit today and we're going to talk about it, but I'm just giving you an overview right now. Then if you have somebody on your team that has the ability to do purchases and you've got a credit card for them, you want to make sure that they can spend a certain amount of money to solve issues without needing to contact you. Now, maybe in general, you give them $100, limit and say, hey, like, if you need to go buy something that's $100 or less, that's fine. And then if it's over $100, then you need to ask me. But typically during like vacations and things like that, I would up that a little bit. So that way they had a little bit more room and they didn't have to call me as much. So I'm like, okay, if it's something within this category, then you have up to $500 to spend and I don't want to hear about it unless it's over $500 and then give me the receipts afterwards. So you want to make sure that there's an ability for somebody to spend money on your behalf. So you're not trying to stand there on the phone trying to pay something over the credit card when you could have just given somebody a higher limit or given somebody that authority. If it's anything online, that's why I like privacy.com because you can put limits on it and you can change those limits at any time. I also actually had our bookkeeper have the ability to pay for stuff. So if we were out of town and let's say it was over a certain amount, then we would just make sure that the bookkeeper approved those purchases or they would make the purchase themselves. And so that way, obviously they had a better handle on our books. And so if something was crazy way off, they'd be like, oh, I don't know about that. Let's call Curtis and Liz. But for the most part, that was kind of the hierarchy of things that we went to. What is the one way you'll be contacted in case of an emergency? So I didn't really like to have a bunch of phone calls. So they let me know via email what was going on. Usually in a daily email, they would send me an email. And then if it was an emergency, it was calling me. But don't go texting me all day long because then I'm going to be distracted and I'm not going to be like actually paying attention because now I'm texting back all day. You're also training your employees that you're not the keeper of all the knowledge and they can't come to you like they go to Google or ChatGPT. They need to go try to figure it out themselves. And then obviously, if you really don't want to be contacted, you can always have a separate email or phone number. I know people who do this. And then obviously don't share it with everybody else. I don't think you guys are in that boat right now. These are contact numbers of that somebody may need when you are away, like the bookkeeper, the accountant, the independent contractors, the team members, the vendors, the clients' names. Like again, if anything is in your phone and you're the only person that has that contact information, or it's very hard to find because it's on some random piece of paper somewhere in your office, then you're not actually doing anybody any good. Again, what codes and stuff, we talked about this. Now, here's a big one. What issues do you think are going to happen while you are away, and how would you solve them? So this is going to take a little bit more thinking, and I'm going to have you guys actually do this exercise in a minute. But you want to think about what issues are there. What we're doing is we're trying to create clarity in your entire business as fast as possible, so that way there isn't confusion while you're gone. Typically, when you work through scenarios and you do this planning ahead of time, you actually never end up having those issues in the first place. But going through the practice of planning is actually 90% of the battle right there. And then what tasks will you need to catch up on when you get back? A lot of times we like to just kind of shift things. We want to push things either way before, so we're crazy busy before we go on vacation, or we push things till after we get back and we're crazy busy after we get back. And we're like, look, we had this vacation, we had all this time and we could do all this stuff. And really, in reality, it's that valley in between two crazy mountains of work that kept us working till midnight leading up to it and working 100-hour weeks after the fact. And so you want to think about, okay, what tasks do I need to catch up on when I get back? Try to delegate that to people while you're away. This is going to be a really good way for you to unbottleneck yourself, and also for you to not just push things aside while you go and take a vacation. And then ask your team, what questions will they be asking, or do they think they'll need to be asking while you're away? This is going to be really key, because it's going to help them start thinking like they own their job versus like you own their job and they just happen to be a minion in the scheme of your business. They're like, oh, well, what questions will I need? Actually, I need to know about this process because it's going to happen while you're gone. So you want them to proactively think about this. And then here's a checklist down here. So does anyone have any questions on this vacation SOP before we start diving in and dissecting it a little bit more? So the biggest ones that I find are the issues is this one right here. What potential issues do you think will happen while you're away? And what do you consider is an emergency for them to contact you? So everyone grab this vacation SOP. I'll share it again in the chat because I know a couple of people jumped in and out. And I'm going to give you, I'll give you 5 minutes to brainstorm. What you're going to do is you're going to, let's put this in the chat real quick. What you're going to do is you're going to go up here and you're going to make a copy right here. And then you're going to name it Vacation SOP. And you can even name it with the date or with what trip you're going on. And then, whoops. Then you're just going to add a dot here and just type as many issues as you think is possible. And then we're going to work through those. And then we're also going to do the emergency one. So everybody grab the document. If you're on your phone and driving or whatever, then just think through it, because maybe some of the issues you're thinking of are similar to other people's issues. And then when we kind of work through them, everyone will have more peace of mind to go out of town. Like I said, I've been using this vacation SOP for 5 or 6 years now. It was one of the first SOPs I actually made, the SOP outlines that I've made. And I know people who have gone on vacation and have had no issues coming back when they followed this, because they've actually thought through everything. And it really does not take that long to think through everything, but it puts your business in the offense versus you in the defense trying to put out on the fires while you're away.